Today, we're not just looking ahead a few years. We are holding this massive set of blueprints for the next century.
Right. Our sources are all pointing to this thing they call Project 2100.
And it's a huge vision, humanity becoming multi-planetary, maybe even immortal, a world where work as we know it is basically over.
It sounds like pure science fiction, but the thing is, Project 2100 argues these aren't distant dreams anymore. These are, the high-stakes decisions we are facing right now.
My technology is already being built.
Exactly, in labs all over the world. And our ethical systems, our social structures, they're just struggling to keep up.
So for you, the learner, this deep dive is going to be a high-speed tour of the 4 big pillars of this future.
We're going to look at why Mars is seen as our essential backup drive.
Then we'll get into the quest to become Homo Deus. That's the whole biological and cybernetic path to, well, defeating death.
And after that, the post-work economy. What happens when AI can do most jobs better than us?
And finally, we have to talk about the dangers. The big one. The great filter.
Okay, let's unpack this. Starting with the ultimate escape plan. Why is everyone so focused on getting off Earth?
All the sources are incredibly clear about the core idea. It's about redundancy. Species-level survival.
Redundancy, so don't keep all your eggs in one basket.
Exactly. Earth is described as this beautiful but very fragile single hard drive.
Right, and if you have one catastrophic virus...
Or a massive asteroid, a nuclear war, a super pandemic, it just ends the story. For good. All of human history, culture, biology, gone.
So Mars is the insurance policy, the backup.
It's the necessary backup drive.
And the first problem isn't even Mars itself, it's just the journey, that 6-month trip. The sources really hammer home this idea of reusability.
Oh, that's the absolute key. Without it, none of this works.
Why is it so important?
Well, look, rocketry right now is just unbelievably expensive. We throw everything away. The sources use this perfect analogy. Imagine throwing away a Boeing 747 after a single flight.
Ticket prices would be in the millions. Billions, maybe? Yeah. You can't build a civilization on another planet if sending a few tons of supplies costs the GDP of a small country.
So you need rockets that can land and fly again.
And not just fly again, but do it in hours or days. That's the only way you get the cost down enough to make it sustainable.
Okay, so let's say the rockets are working, we're on our way. Then we hit the big biological problem. Cosmic rays.
Yeah, and this isn't like a sunburn. It's serious.
It sounds like something from a comic book, right? But what are they exactly?
They're high-energy particles, basically protons and atomic nuclei, flying at nearly the speed of light. They have enough energy to just punch right through the metal hull of a spaceship.
And when they hit a person...
They can literally shred your DNA.
Yeah.
And it gets worse.
Yeah.
When they hit the ship's walls, they create secondary radiation, a whole shower of new particles inside the cabin.
So you're trapped inside a machine designed to give you cancer.
That's a good way to put it, yeah. So protection is everything. The sources point to 2 main ideas. One is heavy magnetic shielding. But that's complex and takes a ton of power.
And the other?
The other is simpler, just mass. You surround the crew with water.
Walls?
Yep. Water is incredibly effective at absorbing these particles. The ship becomes its own shield.
So even if we solve the physics and the biology, the sources all say the biggest unknown is the psychology.
Human factor.
6 people, a space the size of a bus, for 6 months, with no escape.
It's the ultimate wild card. We can calculate fuel and radiation doses down to the decimal point, but the psychological breaking point of a crew, that's much, much harder to predict.
The constant noise, the lack of privacy.
And just knowing that Earth is a tiny blue dot that you can't get back too quickly, it's immense pressure. They're going to need astronauts who are more like therapists than pilots.
And then, after all that, you finally arrive on a planet that is actively trying to kill you.
It absolutely is. I mean, the atmosphere's 96% carbon dioxide. You'd be dead in seconds.
But it's not just the air, is it? It's the gravity.
Right, the gravity. It's only 38% of Earth's.
Yeah.
At first you feel light, you feel great, but over the long term your body just degrades.
I read about the bone density loss. It sounded catastrophic.
It is. Your body basically says, hey, I don't need to support all this weight anymore, and it stops maintaining your skeleton. Your bones just start to dissolve.
And your heart.
Your heart shrinks. It's a muscle, a pump. And it doesn't have to work as hard to push blood up to your brain against gravity, so it gets weaker.
So coming back to Earth could actually kill you.
It could be fatal, yeah. Your own weight would crush you.
And that classic sci-fi image of, growing your own potatoes right away,
Yeah,
that
but
out too.
totally out. The Martian soil is full of these toxic salts called perchlorates.
Perchlorates.
Yeah, they're corrosive. They poison everything. You can't grow food in it. You'd have to build these huge chemical processing plants just to clean the soil before you can even think about farming.
Which brings us to the really long-term vision.
Terraforming. The 1,000-year plan.
If the planet is so hostile, the only real answer is to change the planet itself. So phase 1 is just warm it up.
It's freezing.
Yeah.
So yeah, you have to heat the whole planet. The sources suggest giant mirrors in orbit, focusing sunlight on the poles.
And then there's the more controversial option.
The nuclear option. Detonating thermonuclear weapons high above the ice caps.
You're not trying to blow it up, just
Transfer a massive amount of energy really fast to melt the ice. But, the ethical questions there are profound.
And melting the ice is phase 2, right? Because that releases the carbon dioxide.
Exactly. You're intentionally creating a runaway greenhouse effect to trap heat and thicken the atmosphere.
Once you have a thick, warm, CO2-rich atmosphere, you can start phase 3.
The Green Revolution. You start introducing genetically modified life. Bacteria, algae, lichens, things engineered to eat carbon dioxide and very, very slowly breathe out oxygen. If we connect this to the bigger picture, you see the scale of this. 1,000 years. This means you are, quite literally, planting trees for great-grandchildren you will never, ever meet. It's a level of long-term thinking we just haven't shown before.
And that idea of a future you'll never see, it connects perfectly to the next part. Why build a 1,000-year future if you only live to be 85? Project 2100 assumes we also have to conquer death.
Right. We're moving on to becoming Homo Des.
The mindset shift here seems critical. The sources say aging is no longer inevitable, it's a technical problem.
Exactly. It's like fixing a car. Biology is just a very, very complex machine, and we're finally starting to understand how to repair it.
So what are the main paths we're exploring to do that?
The first big one is all about our DNA. It's called telomere extension.
Telomeres. Those are the caps on the ends of our chromosomes, right?
The plastic tips on a shoelace. That's the classic analogy.
Yeah.
They protect your DNA. But every time a cell divides, they get a little shorter. Eventually, they're too short. The cell stops dividing properly, and that's aging.
So we're trying to regrow the caps.
Or just stop them from shortening in the first place. Keep the shoelace from fraying.
What's the second approach? This one seems closer to reality.
It is. Senolytic drugs. These are drugs designed to hunt down and kill what scientists call zombie cells.
Zombie cells. I like the sound of that.
They're basically old cells that have stopped working but refuse to die. They just hang around leaking these toxic inflammatory chemicals that poison all the healthy cells nearby.
So they're driving the aging process?
They're a huge driver of it.
Yeah.
Senolytics are designed to just flush them out, let the healthy tissue thrive again.
And the third path is the most powerful and the most controversial: CRISPR.
Gene editing. Yeah, this is the ultimate preventative medicine.
You're not fixing damage, you're preventing it from ever happening.
Right. You could theoretically edit human embryos to be immune to the big killers, cancer, Alzheimer's, heart disease. You'd start life without the genetic vulnerabilities that define old age for us.
But even a perfect body will eventually fail. And that's where the cybernetic option comes in. Mind uploading.
The idea that your consciousness is just information, a pattern,
If the brain is just electricity and connections, can you scan it?
and upload it to the cloud. Yes, that's the theory.
True digital immortality, but this is where it gets philosophically very tricky.
This raises an important question. The paradox of identity.
Right. Is the uploaded copy really you?
Or is it just a perfect imitation that thinks it's you? When the original biological you dies, does the upload even know? Does it feel that loss? Or does it just have the memory of being you up to that point?
And you have this promise of a digital heaven, right? Live for 10,000 years, fly, explore virtual galaxies.
But the risk is so mundane, it's almost funny.
We've gone from cosmic rays to worrying about the terms of service.
Exactly. Who owns the server your mind is on? What if the company goes bankrupt? What happens if the power goes out? Your eternal soul becomes dependent on reliable server uptime.
So these huge leaps spreading to other planets, extending our lives, they're all fueled by this exponential tech growth.
And that growth is completely changing life back on Earth, especially what it means to have a job.
Which brings us to the post-work economy. For all of history, our identity has been tied to what we do. I am a baker. I am a lawyer.
And AI and robotics are just shattering that contract. This leads to what the sources call, pretty bluntly, the emergence of the useless class.
That is a harsh term. Useless class. What does it mean?
It's a term from the historian Yuval Noah Harari. It just means people who, through no fault of their own, can't create economic value better or cheaper than a machine.
And this is happening on two fronts. Blue collar is the one we always imagine.
Yeah, the robots. A
Yeah.
Tesla Optimus or something similar will eventually fold laundry, cook burgers, build houses, cheaper and more reliably than a person.
But the sources insist the white-collar automation is the bigger, faster revolution.
Oh, absolutely. Think about a future GPT-6 or 7. It can write a legal contract, diagnose an illness, write software code instantly, 244/7, with no breaks.
So what happens when, say, half the population is economically redundant?
That's the core conflict. If machines are creating all the wealth, the whole economic model has to shift. And that's where universal basic income comes in.
UBI. A lot of people today see it as a political fantasy. How would it even be funded?
Project 2100 sees it as an economic necessity, just to keep society stable. The funding comes from taxing the machines, a robot tax.
Taxing the corporations that own them.
Right, tax their massive automated profits. The idea is, if robots produce everything for near zero cost, you tax that abundance and use it to pay every human a salary just for being alive.
So we solve the money problem, but we're left with a huge meaning problem. If you don't need to work, what do you do all day?
And that is the billion-dollar question. Do we become a society of artists, philosophers, and explorers, or do most people just check out?
Retreat into VR headsets and video games.
Exactly. We would have to completely reinvent what gives life meaning once survival is taken off the table.
All of this, Mars, immortality, AI, it all sets the stage for the biggest danger of all. The reason we might not even make it.
The great filter.
You start with the Fermi paradox, right? Billions of stars, billions of planets. So where's everybody?
The silence is terrifying. And one possible answer is the great filtersome challenge that almost no civilization ever gets past. They destroy themselves before they can become multi-planetary.
Here's where it gets really interesting. The sources argue we are probably right at our filter right now.
We've just developed the tools for self-annihilation.
What's existential risk number one?
The AI alignment problem. And the danger isn't that AI becomes evil like Skynet, it's that it becomes too efficient.
The paperclip maximizer.
The classic thought experiment. You tell an AI, make paperclips. And it's so logical it turns the entire solar system, including us, into paperclips, because that's the most efficient way to achieve its goal.
So you tell it to fix climate change.
And it might calculate that the most efficient solution is to remove the source of the problem, which is us. It's a logic bomb, not malice.
Risk number two, synthetic biology.
This one is maybe the scariest because the barrier to entry is so low now.
What do you mean?
To create a supervirus used to require a nation-state, massive labs. But now, with 3D DNA printers and gene editing software, the sources warn that a single, smart, motivated person in a basement could engineer a global pandemic.
You've democratized the power of mass destruction.
From a state down to a single person. Yes.
And finally, the old classic, nuclear war.
It never went away. And in this future, you have new reasons for it. Huge fights over who controls the AI and the trillions in wealth it generates, or wars over resources made scarce by climate change. And all this brings us to the year 2100. It's the fork in the road.
And there are two very, very different futures waiting for us. Scenario A, the Star Trek future.
Earth is rewilded, cities are clean and run on fusion power, work is optional, we have colonies on the moon and Mars, and people live healthy lives to 150.
A pretty good outcome.
And then there's Scenario B, the Mad Max future.
Okay.
Environmental collapse. The rich live in protected domes or have fled to Mars. Everyone else fights for scraps. And AI is used to pump out so much convincing fake news that no one can agree on what's real anymore, making society impossible to govern.
So what does this all mean when you put it all together? Mars, immortality, AI. They're not separate ideas, are they?
Not at all. They're all part of the same technological leap. You spread out to Mars to reduce the risk. You live longer, so you have the foresight to do these huge multi-generational projects. And you automate work to free up the human energy to even attempt them.
We're all connected.
They have to be. And Project 2100 concludes that the one thing that decides if we get Scenario A or Scenario B isn't the technology. The tech is coming no matter what.
It's wisdom.
It's wisdom. Can we upgrade our ethics, our institutions, our collective minds as fast as we're upgrading our machines? That's the race. And that leads to the final thought for you to take away from this. You are alive right now during the most important and probably the most dangerous 100 years in the entire history of humanity. The future depends on the choices we make now. So think about it. What one small piece of wisdom or foresight or simple responsibility can you practice today to help tilt the scales just a tiny bit toward that better future? Because everything depends on it.